Welcome to today's session. It's a practice that I put together with the idea in mind that it's a really good thing to do salutes to the sun, but sometimes we don't feel completely energetic for doing that kind of practice, or for some of us, it's not such an accessible practice. So this one that I'm presenting, we'll use a chair to start with, and then we'll advance to using blocks. And I think it'll be an enjoyable one for most of us. But we're going to start with a breathing practice. And another part of this program that I think you'll like is we're going to start by being in a lying down position. Just have a look at my props. I've got a bolster that's propped up with a couple of blocks. So it's an incline with a blanket to support my head. And I've got an extra blanket there that I'll show you how to use. So if you can kind of imitate that setup, it'll be really good for your utmost relaxation, I think. Or just use the props that you have and set them up so that you can be comfortable. The idea is that you want to create a sense of inner stillness, and we want to be comfortable to attain that. So, I'm going to sit down in front of my bolster, but right up against it. And before I lie back in bandhasana, that is in that position where my feet are together and my knees out to the side, with this extra blanket, I'm going to fold it so it's kind of ribboning back on itself. And I get a long kind of sausage shape like that. And then if I drape it over my feet, bring it around the backs of my lower legs, then I've got a support so my knees don't drop out too far. And that's going to help avoid, an overstretching through the groins. Then I'm ready to lie back. I've got this extra blanket here to support my head. And then arms are just draped out to the side with the palms uppermost. And at this point, you might settle in. I'm just doing a little wiggle through my hips to get my lower back settled. And if it works for you, close your eyes or cover your eyes with an eye bag, an eye pillow. And then we go more introspective here, just to watch the movement of the breath, but in its natural way. So we're not trying to impose any control on the breath, just letting it come and go as it does. And I think the nice thing about being supported in this manner by the soft prop is that it helps open the chest. It helps expand the collarbones, and the lungs are nicely supported from the back to the front. And then let's continue with a little control of the breath, but in a really gentle way. And we'll do that through imposing a breath count. So we'll breathe in for a count of 4 and out for a count of 6. And make sure that that suits your own capacity for breathing. But I'll begin giving us the count. So for the inhalation, inhaling 2, 3, 4, exhaling 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In again, inhaling 1, 2, 3, 4, exhaling 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Inhaling 2, 3, 4, exhaling 2, 3, 3, 4, 5, 6. If that pattern suits you, then continue for a few more cycles. With that longer exhalation, you can use the core muscles to expel every little bit of the outgoing breath. And then let's finish with just 2 more cycles like that. Your face is relaxed, your eyes soft, inward. And we'll move along here, but not very far. So if you would bring your knees up and with your knees bent, roll off your bolster to the side. Keep the setup there with that incline of the bolster, and you'll be well served to do a forward stretch on the bolster. Now, if your knees don't like to be particularly compressed as we start the practice here, we're not so warmed up, you might lift up a little bit onto the bolster and have the buttocks elevated onto it. Otherwise, then relax going forward. I'm going to turn my head to the side and relax through the shoulders. The good thing about being supported in a child's pose like this is that you can feel through the front body the movement of the breath. And what I notice is that I can feel that coming and going of the breath in the back of my body, in the back of my lungs, where I don't always notice it in the front. Now we're not going to stay here. Let's come up slowly, using your hands to lift up. And come up all the way to standing. We're going to take a seat again, but let's move the props. I'm going to keep my bolster for the next seated pose. You might want to do that too. And I am going to take a kneeling position. With my feet on either side of the bolster, and then lowering back to have the buttocks supported. Now, if your knees need more space than you get in this position, you might take one of those blankets and add a little bit extra height underneath your buttocks. And while we're here, we'll do an arm and shoulder stretch. So your feet on either side of the bolster, toes pointing straight back. You might lift out the buttocks a little bit away from the sitting bone and have a more upright position on the front of the sitting bones. And then interlock your hands, turn your palms forward, press forward, and the more that you press forward, the more you straighten your elbows. And go up, and stretch up. And then, at this point, you might like to tilt your chin up, look up, get a little bit more height through your breastbone. And then lowering your hands to chest height, change the interlock, re-stretch, press forward. I'm really giving my elbows a good stretch as I press the center of my palms forward and in the same position up towards the ceiling. Lift the thumbs a little bit higher, the little fingers come down, elbows straightening, push away. And you've got a good base where you're sitting on the front edges of your sitting bone. And then lower your hands chest height and release. Shake out your fingers. And then do come to a kneeling position on your mat. Let's get all these props out of the way so we've got a clear space. We'll use them again later. Kneeling on all fours. I've got padding with doubled up mats here, and be sure to take good care of your knees if you need to by having an extra folded blanket underneath them. And then from this kind of neutral cat position, practice just this really simple exercise that I've adopted recently where I'm pressing through my hands. It's a push away action. So it gives a little bit more work for my bones, for my wrist bones. Pressing away, the elbow straightening again. And if I start to lower my buttocks back towards my heels, I don't have to go all the way to my heels, but even halfway, now I can create a pulling action in my hands, as though I'm trying to pull them back towards my knees, but they won't let go. And then coming forward and push away, press on the base of the fingers, the bottom knuckles, and then let's lower buttocks back. Use your core muscles to lift the abdomen up into the body. Pull with the hands, trying to pull your hands towards your wrist towards your elbows, and then come forward again and press the hands down. And then take a little wrist break and lower onto your elbows. Turn your palms upside down and open and close your hands several times. Or waggle your fingers, that's a good one too. And then palms down. And we're in neutral cat pose again. Let's do a strengthening exercise. In all of my programs, I try to include strengthening, balancing, coordination, and through the salutes to the sun that we'll do shortly, we'll work on mobility. So tuck your toes under. Now think about lifting your knees as you push away strongly through your hands. Use your core muscles to lift up, just a fraction, and lower down. And press away and lift up. We're going to do 5 of these all together, so pace yourself. On an exhaling breath, so we're only doing it for 1 breath cycle, exhaling and down. Add pressure to your hands, lift up through your navel center. And I've lost count, but we'll do 2 more. That's 1 and 2, and then your feet flat on the floor and elbows down. Flip your hands over again. Spread your fingers. Open up from the little finger to the thumb, and then back onto all fours again. In this strengthening exercise, we can add a calf muscle stretch. So extend your left leg back behind you. Tuck your toes under on the floor, and then push away through your hands and lean back into that left foot. Lovely. And then switch, and right foot, tuck the toes under. Your hips are level through this. We don't want to torque the lower spine. And then leaning back into that back leg. Both knees down. And then let's lift your left leg straight behind you. So when you lift that left leg, keep the hips level. Keep the pressure even on both hands. And point the back foot. A nice plantar flexion for the foot. And then replacing left knee. Extend the right leg behind you and then elevate that right leg no higher than your hip, and it's fine to be lower than that, and level the hips. Keep your chest open. You might look forward towards the end of your mat. And then right knee to the floor. Take a little wrist break again and lower your elbows. Turn your hands upside down, palms up. All right, and last round here, we're going to add a movement of coordination, cross-lateral movement. Let's take that left leg back and lift it up. Let's take the right arm forward and extend it as you've done with the back limb. And then bend your elbow, right elbow in, left knee in, curl up and re-extend. And then one more time, I sort of just drop that in there quickly and extend, lengthen out, arm away from the leg, leg away from the arm, and both hands down. Settle in. Now you got a baseline. You noticed what that movement was like throughout your body. See what it's like on the other side. Right leg back, lift it up, left arm forward, stretch it out. Tuck in, lengthen out. Flex and extend, and then both hands supporting, both knees supporting. Separate your knees a little bit, come down onto your elbows, slide your elbows back towards your knees, stack your hands up so that you can rest your head onto your hands, or if there is a block close to you, you might rest your head onto your block instead. That took some work for your shoulders in them supporting you. So relax across the top line of your shoulder blades and your shoulders. We'll do one more strengthening pose. And this one you're going to be lying on your side in this manner. So here I'm on my right side, and you can see I'm supporting myself on my right forearm, and my fingers pointing the same way as my knees forward. And we'll just do a little movement here. You can keep your left hand on your left hip, and then lift up your ribs away from the floor. Make a curve of that right side of your body as you lift up. And then as a contrast, let yourself drop. Press into your forearm and lift up your right ribs again into your body. And then release. And what would happen if we bore our weight onto that arm and we lift up not just your ribs, but your hip as well? And then lower down. And if we were straight legs here, we might be imitating a plank pose on our forearm. And lift up one more time, and down, and then let's go other side. So that was my dominant arm, and see what it's like on the non-dominant side. So that leg position is right angle at the hips, right angle at the knees. And then here we are, we're balanced on our left arm. And then that early part of just warming up the rib cage and lifting up the bottom ribs and releasing. Such a nice movement for mobility in the rib cage that will affect your breathing. And then let's go to that next level and press your left arm and lift your bottom hip as well as your ribs. What if on this side we add that extra dimension of extending up the right arm? And release. Do one more. Lift, stretch, and coming down happily, and release, and then we'll come all the way up to standing up. Once do a little awareness exercise. So I've got a yoga strap here that I'm going to double up. It's about 2 meters length and I'm doubling it up. And then if I hold the belt on either side, I can do this simple exercise where I bend my knees, I slot the belt into the joint of the leg into the hip. There's a little crease there anyway, and then I can take a forward bend. Halfway down towards the floor, and then push away through your feet, unhinge your hips and come up and straighten your legs. Do that again, a knee bend, a forward bend, pulling with the belt slightly, and unhinge and straight legs and come up. We'll do 3 more of those. Take your own time, just a slight knee bend, a slight forward bend, but you're harnessing yourself through the hips so that that is a kind movement for your back, for your spinal column. And 1 more time, and a knee bend, a hinge. Now take away the belt, just drop it. Bring your hands down onto your legs and support yourself with straight arms. Draw the navel up towards the backbone and do that starting from your pubic bone to your belly button, and then your belly button up towards your sternum. And then with that abdomen nice and hollow, come into a deeper forward bend, as much as your back will allow, as much as your hamstrings will allow, although your knees are still slightly bent. And it's head down, shoulders relaxed, and tailbone lifting. Keep your weight on the inside of your feet, on the base of your big toe, on your inner heel, and then you're coming up. Bring your hands onto your hips, press your hips onto your legs, bend your knees forward, unhinge, and all the way up, and straight legs, straight knees. Beautiful. So what if we take that into downward facing dog pose? So a knee bend, a hinge forward, reach for the floor, and then hands anchored, step your feet back, and take the dog for a walk, pedal the feet, I like doing this, although I didn't for a long time because I thought it was kind of non-traditional. It would call me old-fashioned. But what I like about it is that there's that movement through the hips and through the spinal column. A little side sway, sashaying through the hips. And then hold the extension of the legs. So you're still now through your legs and your spine. And can you get the image in your mind, the way that you harnessed your hips? So when you had the belt there, can you imagine the belt is there at the crease of your legs and it's pulling you back away from your hands, away from your arms and more into your legs and your hamstring stretch. And then let's lift the heels, take a little walk forward, walk your hands back, and the knees are bent and you're hinging from the hip fold, and inhale and coming up until you can straighten your legs. Very nice work. And now those salutes as advertised. We're going to use a chair for this. And let's see which way we'll go. Yeah, so bring your chair onto so at least the front feet of the chair won't slip onto your mat. So what else do we need to know here? I think we're ready to go. So step up close to the chair. And just relax in Tadasana. your version of Tadasana with your feet a little separated. So for me, I can extend my legs by locking my knees. I'm just going to keep a soft knee bend again. And then the arms loose by your side and tall. That's from the base of your spine, along the back of your neck, through to the crown of your head. Chest nice and open from where we began with the breathing exercise on the bolster. Now, we'll do a lift of the arms out to the side, and inhale. And an exhale, bend your knees, hinge from your hips, and bring your hands onto the seat of the chair as you lower your head towards the chair. You're in Uttanasana, basically. Step your left foot back. And we're coming into a lunge, but you still get that hinge, especially at your right hip. The left leg is back and in extension. Be kind to your knees. So keep the knee just over your ankle, the shin bone perpendicular. You can open up your chest forward, take an inhalation, and ready to do modified downward facing dog pose. Step the right foot back in line with the left foot. Extend your shoulders, extend your arms, lift your tailbone. And then let's lift your heels, rock forward until your chest is coming forward and your arms are straight, perpendicular, and you're in a version of plank pose. And then rock back as you lower your heels. We're going to step off the back foot, bring your left foot forward. There's your lunge. You're hinging over the front leg, and then a big step forward, back to Uttanasana, head down, buttocks up. Inhale, arms up, and exhale, arms down by your side. That was a very, very, very slow round. Let's go again. Maybe we'll add a little bit more pace to it. Here we go. Inhale, little knee bend, a hinge forward, Uttanasana, head down, buttocks up. Right foot back this time. Good. Keep your chest high. Lift the part that's near to the armpits. Good. And then downward facing dog pose. So stepping the legs back, head down, sitting bones up. Rock forward. There's our modified plank pose. Tighten your buttocks, tighten the quadriceps. Stretch back, down dog. Big step forward, right foot. There's your lunge. Hold it for a moment, lift your chest. And left foot to right foot, head down, and then keep the knee bend as you unhinge. Arms will help you lift your chest, and exhale down. Let's do this with a breathing pattern, and I hope this one suits you. Inhale, exhale, head down. Inhale, left foot back. Exhale, right foot back. Down dog. Inhale, plank, open up your chest. Exhale, back to your dog pose. Inhale, left foot forward. Right foot forward, keep the knee bend. Inhale, your arms are going to help you lift and open your chest. Exhale down. Beautiful. You can use Ujjayi breathing for this if you know that breathing pattern. Inhale. Exhale. Right foot back. Good. Respect that lunge. Take a little bit longer. And left foot back. A plank pose. Good. Don't sink down in your lower back. Exhale, push back. Right foot forward. And your left foot forward. Inhale. Exhale. And then let's take Uttanasana. That chair is such a nice place to land. And come down into a relaxed forward bend this time. You might bring your arms onto the chair. If you've got a good enough forward bend and your head is near to the
chair, fold your arms and rest your head onto your folded arms. Notice if there is any roughness in your breath and let it come to be smooth and flowing again. And I like to do just a few more rounds and take away the chair and bring the blocks into play here. And I'll be using them in this manner. So for me, I'm going to have the blocks flat on the lower side. And I'm going to stand very close to them like we stood close to the chair. Okay, so a little softening through the knees. Bring your arms up. And then hinge and go forward. Bring your hands down onto the blocks. So bend your knees as much as you need to do that. And head down, buttocks up. And take the left foot back into the lunge. And right foot back into downward facing dog pose. And then come forward, bring your chest forward. Bring your arms straight over your elbows and wrists, your plank pose, push back, down dog. Step up, left foot, right foot to join, and then soften your knees and inhale and bring your arms out wide to come up and down by your side. So step in a little bit closer, and here we go. Round 2, inhale, exhale, right foot back, hold the lunge, lift your chest, left foot back, down dog, good plank pose, lift your navel, use your core muscles, and stretch back, down dog, right foot forward, left foot forward, and then inhale, use your arms to help you all the way up and down again. Let's do one more round. That's right and left foot going back. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, left foot. Exhale, right foot. Inhale, plank. Exhale, down dog. Step up, inhale, left foot, right foot. Inhale, all the way up. Elevate your chest, exhale down. And last round, exhale, right foot, inhale, exhale, downward facing dog pose. Sorry if I mixed up the breathing, and come forward, plank pose. Stiffen the legs, exhale, roll back, right foot, left foot, inhale, arms up, exhale, arms down. So either of those two ways of approaching the salutes, stay at your level. So if your knees are a little bit unreliable, then stay with the chair. And if you want to challenge yourself to the next level, then use the blocks or nothing at all. Trikonasana. Take a position on your mat where you're facing the long end of the mat. And then let's step out about a meter's distance. Turn your feet to the right. When you do that, It's not just that you turned your foot out, but you turned your thigh out and your right knee. It's going to bring your left leg around a little bit, and you begin to straighten through the knees. Extend the arms out wide to the side, and press down through the palms until the upper arms feel much more engaged. And then look over to that right side. You know this pose well. Lift the right arm a little higher and lead with the right side of your rib cage, and then bring your right hand down and the left arm up towards the ceiling. Straighten the arms away from each other. And then inhale and come up. Turn your feet directly forward, and then all the way around to the left side. And as I said, the knee turns out, the thigh turns out, and then the right thigh is turning in a little bit. Lift your left arm up a little higher, lead with the rib cage on your left side, and then really drop your hand beneath your shoulder and your right arm up towards the ceiling. If you have a tendency to round your shoulders in your posture just generally, see if you can bring the back of your head back a little bit here. Bring your throat back a little bit. And that might ease yourself out of your dorsal thoracic spine. And inhale and come up. And turn your feet directly forward. Bring your hands onto your hips. Pause and consolidate. Relax your shoulders. And turn your feet once more to the right. Beautiful. Extend your arms out sideways. Let's do a little bit more work through the arms. Press down through the palms. Extend out to the tips of your fingers. And then lead with your right arm. Right hand down. You're just going to land where your arm is directly beneath your shoulder. Right arm beneath your right shoulder. Left arm above your right arm. Your raised arm, open your palm. Imagine that you can press your palm against a surface in front of you, like a sliding glass door or window, and press away. And feel that activate your upper arm to your shoulder. Inhale and come up. Turn your palms forward. Keep pressing down through your palms. That's going to keep your tricep muscles nice and engaged. Turn your feet to the left side. Lead with that left arm. Reach away to the left. And when you bring that arm down, check and see that your raised arm is above your lower arm. If it tends not to be, because if you have a stiff shoulder, maybe even a sore shoulder, perfectly fine to rest your hand onto your hip and roll that shoulder back. Otherwise, press the right palm forward as though you had a surface to press against. Bring your head back a little bit. And then inhale and come up. And lovely work for triangle pose. And step all the way back in to Tadasana. Let's take relaxed Uttanasana. Separate your feet a little bit. Fold your arms so that your thumbs rest in the crease of your elbows. Stretch the arms up first. Bend your knees. Hinge at the hip fold and come in. Like I said, a relaxed Uttanasana. Feel your arms heavy. That upper arms are relaxed so that the shoulders relax and drop out. And then take your opportunity here to straighten your legs. See if that works for you by pulling up the thigh muscles from just above your knees to the hip fold. And then feel the abdominal wall moving up into the body as though it could kind of slide underneath the diaphragm ribs. Then be loose in your arms, let them drop and dangle. Press your feet down, Push away through your feet, bend your knees, unhinge, and upright. All right, let's take the opportunity to do a balancing pose. It's a version of Warrior One pose. So let's see, what direction shall we go? I'm facing the short end. I've got two short ends to my mat. So facing the short end of the mat, I've got a wall here because this is a balancing pose. It's a version, actually not Warrior One, Warrior Three pose. So let's do this together. Step your left foot forward, step your right foot back. Keep the weight even on your both feet. And then bend your left leg to a lunge. Now, when I did that, my knee overshot my ankle. So I'm going to step my left foot a little forward. So I have pretty much a right angle at the back of my knee. Bring your hands into your hip fold so you can feel where that crease of your hips is, and then bend forward over your left leg from that hip fold. Lift your back heel. Keep your hands onto your hips or in that hip fold, and you're going to come up to a balancing pose on your left leg, raising your right leg behind you. And give it a go. Wall came in handy. And then lower your right foot. Go back to your lunge. And then step forward, unhinge, and straighten your legs. All right, a little wobbly on that side. Balance on your right leg and step your left foot back. Then take your lunge. Turn a little bit towards the front leg and hinge over that right leg. And I keep my hands onto my hips and then raise my left leg behind me. It's better if I'm doing this while I'm not talking. No surprise there. As you can see, you just have a few goes with it. We're not trying to do, the first place Olympics version of this pose. And then go back through the lunge and step up and consolidate. So what I'm noticing is that I have a really strong tendency to roll from my big toe to my little toe, and that upsets my balance. So do this little exercise for your ankles. Let's do the left foot. Lift your heel and then rotate all around the ball of your foot, like so. So your legs moving in the hip socket, but mainly we want to just get a little bit more suppleness through the foot bones. And then go the other way. And then the right foot, the heel comes up, and we rotate all around the ball joints of the toes, while rotating the hip and the knee. And then go the other way. And let's have one more go with that Warrior Three version. Once more, facing the short end of the mat. Step right foot back. We're not rushing. Keep your hands on your hips. You're reminded now to bend as you bend into your lunge. Bend forward over that bent leg. We're going to do a push-off, lifting the back heel, and then lifting all of your right leg behind you. Keep to the inside of your left foot, the big toe base, and the inside heel. I'm going to rely on the wall on this side because I have a weaker ankle there. Keep working on it though. Squeeze the outer hips in and then lower down and come back to the lunge. So we'll make the transition part of the pose and step up and left foot back. Good, notice your breathing, whether you're breathing. Right leg lunges, back heel lifts, turn that thigh in a little bit, and then bring your trunk forward over the right thigh. Good. Do a push off and see how you do to come up. And balancing with the hips as much as possible level. So there's a tendency to lift the raised leg hip. If you can, keep it level. And then come back to ground. Come back to your lunge. And step up. This walking is very handy on this demonstration. And shake out your legs. Shake out your feet. Shake out your toes. Beautiful. We're going to move into seated pose. So let's use our bolster for that. And back to kneeling. Now, not everybody has healthy or perfect or whatever version you want to say knees, so we have to adapt to them. It doesn't necessarily mean that we don't do these poses, but we might want to have to give extra space there. So I'm going to sit on my bolster in a straddle position and use a block on top of the bolster. And in this manner, I'm sitting up quite high. This is used in some forms of meditation or is a variation for sitting in meditation. And I like it for myself for meditating or sitting because it helps me keep my spine upright. Now I can take a little more pressure on my knees, so I'll come down right onto the bolster. Now your feet, when they're placed on either side of the bolster, all 5 toes pointing directly backwards. Let's add the arm movement that we did earlier. So arms press forward, stretch up, but with the rotation. So look towards the left side, and then as much as you can, turn to that side from right to left. Bring your arms back a little bit, straighten through your elbows. And in the last part here, turn not just your head and shoulders, but maybe your rib cage. It doesn't move very much, but the intention is there to turn from your right shoulder blade to your left. Back to center. Change the way you interlock your hands. Re-stretch. And then merely looking to the right side. And then your left side is following your gaze as you're turning. And in the last part, hopefully not the last gasp, turn your left shoulder blade to the right, and then back to center. And your knees deserve a well-earned break. So lifting up off of your support, straighten your legs in front of you. And we're going to set ourselves up for a restorative pose called setu bandhasana. And I'll show you the way that I like to do this. And it's to use a block or two at the wall. So if I stack these blocks up on the high end, one in front of the other at the wall, and bring my bolster in front. I've done this a lot of times, and especially for this practice that I'm demonstrating. And so I know the distance that I want to be from the wall and away from the blocks. But let me demonstrate. Sitting, facing the wall, the blocks, in this kind of crouch position in the middle of the bolster, I'm going to finish up by lowering myself down to a reclining position where my shoulders are on the floor, my head supported. Actually, I think a blanket would be really nice underneath the back of my head and my neck. So I might come up and do that in a moment. But when you get here, if you are too far or too near to the wall, this is the time to adjust and avoid committing yourself to the pose if it's going to create any problems for you. A release pressure valve for you might be to have your feet on the floor on either side of the bolster, and that seems to soften the back, because basically you're doing a back bend here. When you're ready to come out of the pose, you're going to take a walk back with your shoulders, your arms, so you're sliding off the bolster towards the, away from the wall. So I will get a blanket to support my head. You might want to do the same. And also grab your eye covering. It's a nice thing to be able to go inside, go internal a little bit more by using that eye pillow. So I guess what I'm saying is play around with the pose a little bit so that you can get your body to accept the pose readily. You don't want to impose poses on yourself. If it happens that your legs tend to roll out or your feet roll out, I'm just using a little bit of muscle strength to keep my legs internally rotated and my feet and my legs together. But you can also put a belt around your thighs, and then you can let go completely. There's no work to be done. So once you've settled in, and as I said, don't fully commit to the pose until you feel like you've got to a position where you're supported by the props, then you might focus on the particular benefit of this pose, I find, is that opening up of the frontal body. So from your straight legs and the bottom of your torso, your pubic bone to the jugular notch, you're getting a tremendous stretch. So the muscles stretch, the fascia, and even the underlying internal organs have a little bit more space this way from the front of the body. And just one more suggestion and see if it's there for you. You could have your arms like Shavasana out a little ways away from the side of your body. And another alternative is to have the arms in cactus position with the elbows crooked. And then taking the arms further overhead, you might rest one palm inside the other with the arms on the floor overhead. Then I say settle in by relaxing your diaphragm ribs. So this is your part of your anatomy that divides your chest from your abdomen. And you want those ribs to be very soft, kind of jelly-like, and easing into the abdominal cavity instead of the ribs lifting up towards the ceiling. Softening, settling, and pacifying the rib cage. And finally, be here, and we'll be here for about 5 minutes. If at some point it feels too strong in your back, then bend your legs and have your feet on the floor on either side of the bolster, or do come out of the pose. Otherwise, it's time to pay attention to the breath again. Watch the easy coming and going of your breath. Explore the breath in an unusual supported position. We don't usually experience the breath in this way. In a few more moments, we'll just stage the exit, the dismount from the pose. So just where you are, you had your arms overhead, bring them by the side of your body again. And then soften your knees and bend your knees and bring your feet onto the floor on either side of the bolster, just like so. You take this blanket away from underneath the head, and then just take a step back with your feet and your buttocks moving towards the end of the bolster, and just pause there. A little bit more support for your lower back with your shoulder blades on the floor, and then another step back. At this point, my hips are still elevated, but my buttocks are in a pelvic tilt. And then lowering all the way to the floor. Once your buttocks touch down onto the floor, bend your knees into your chest and hold at the front of your knees, one hand at the front of each knee, and circle the knees, just tiny, tiny circles. And the other direction. If you've had your eyes covered or closed, opening the eyes, and then roll away from your props to the right side. Use your hands to help you upright. And then clear a space so that you can sit on the bolster. And I'm near to the wall, but I'm not going to rely on the wall for support, but you can if you want. So propping your hips up onto the bolster and bringing the legs into cross-legged position. Or, as I said, we can use the kneeling position on the bolster too here. And whatever encourages us to sit in a upright position. Leave your hands onto your legs. It's up to you, palms upwards or palm downwards. I find if I bring my elbows back alongside my waist, that allows me to keep my chest open but relax my shoulders. And then we'll stay here for a breath or two, and with the eyes downcast or eyes closed, relax your facial features. You might move your jaw a little bit side to side, relax the jaw. Relax the tongue to rest wide and soft on the bottom of your mouth. Maybe open your mouth just a little and moisten your lips. Let the lips close again, so the lips feel full. From the base of your spine, journey up the spine through the lumbar, to the thoracic, to the cervical, the back of your neck, back of your skull. And finally bring your hands up and place them center chest in front of your breastbone. I always remind myself to lift my elbows at this point because invariably my chest tends to drop slightly. And where you've placed your hands over the heart center, over that kind of spiritual heart, incline your head towards your heart and give time now to feel your own kind and good energy. And even though we've focused on a physical and breathing practice, we do our yoga practice to connect with ourselves through the vehicle of those modes, physical, breathing. So that we can share the practice with others and feel in touching into yourself to extend the benefits of your practice to all and everybody. And to that end, we say Namaste.